gotten a lot of requests recently for reorganizations. If you've been working at USF and in the CMS for a long time, we had a big push to kind of consolidate everything and move it into the content management system. And at this point, some sites might be a bit stale. So people want to be able to reorganize their site so that it lends itself best to the content and to the navigation and really provide the information that's most critical to your key audiences on your sites. So we've gotten a lot of requests for these, so we figured this would be a great way to walk through the process and provide you all kind of an overview of how it works and then some best practices. So the process for us, you all will let us know through a support ticket that you would like a reorg. So we will schedule a time to meet with you and your team, anyone who is going to be important in this process. So it doesn't have to be just the content manager and our team. It could be anyone who's editing the site, any other key stakeholders. We really want to make sure that when we do this reorganization process, that everyone in the organization is on board and everything is being okayed by senior leadership and, again, any other stakeholders. So we meet with you, discuss goals, any information that's needed for this reorg process. And then depending on the type of reorganization you want to do, we might create a sandbox site or essentially like a test folder to create new content. And that's totally dependent on the content you have and how you want the reorg to go. So for the most part, and for most of these reorganizations, we can keep everything in its own current existing directory folder. But for some other websites where it's really, you're archiving a lot of things, not a lot of things will be kept from the existing site to the new reorganized site. So it just makes more sense to build it somewhere new and kind of start from scratch. So we will review best practices, and we'll get to that later with Jessica's presentation. And then what we will do is provide you all with kind of those top 10 most visited pages from Google Analytics. We don't have the bandwidth to provide any sort of in-depth Google Analytics reports for you, and we do encourage units to have their Google Tag Manager set up on their site so that you all can pull these reports yourselves. But we will bring these top 10 visited pages just to help you determine and make some decisions about maybe the content that should be living on the home page, how it should be reorganized in your site, and what content should be kept, what could be archived, things like that. So we meet with you all, and then we provide you with this seemingly scary spreadsheet. So it looks like this. This is just an example, and I'll actually show you a real life example as well. But what we'll do is provide you with this template and certain action items. So these are the action items that we've determined are the things that we can accomplish for you in the CMS to then lend itself to a reorganization. So a lot of what you all are going to be looking at is essentially what needs to stay, what needs to go. So archiving is a big one. And just to remind you all, archiving does not mean that this content is gone forever. It just means that it is deleted off of the production server. It's no longer searchable. But if you do need it in the future, we will keep it for a period of time in your archive. A lot of pages, once you kind of determine how you want the site to be kind of restructured, a lot of pages could be moved. Some, if they're highly trafficked website sections, for example, we will add redirects on a case-by-case basis. Depending on how trafficked that website section is or that page. There's going to be some new content potentially that you all will need us to create for you. A lot of it too, you'll see if it's working well and it's where it needs to be, there will be no change to that content at all. So we'll just kind of leave it alone. This will be just a redirect of, let's say, a website section or a site-to-site redirect as well, in case we need to lead visitors to the updated site. Renames happen a lot. Also, I like to do renames in a reorganization, even if, let's say, the naming convention wasn't done properly the first time. So it could be things where the page is renamed because the content has changed, but it could also just to be that our naming conventions are all lowercase and dashes. We want to make sure that those are all consistent. And then a lot of them too, you'll be renaming the page and then moving it into a new section. So again, content might change a bit, or let's say like the title of a office change. So things like that might happen. So here's one that we did for Ed Abroad, who's also going under a name change, so please keep that in mind. But essentially, when you receive your own content inventory, it's going to look like this. So we provide you, and we have an updated key now with those other actions. We have a key for you all to explain what each action does, and then some examples here. And then once you see the spreadsheet here, each section is divided up by your website section on your existing site. So everything that you're seeing on your existing content inventory is every single page on your existing site here. So they had a few sections here, and this one obviously is already completed. But essentially what the job of your team is to do is to look at every single page and tell us when we're doing this reorg what to do with it. Do we move it? Do we rename it? Do we archive it? It's a big lift. And so that's why we're doing this workshop as well, is to kind of highlight the fact that reorganizing a website is a big project, both excuse me, for our team and for your team as well. So just to think it through strategically. So yes, we'll audit every single page for you. We'll create this for you. No need for you to do that. We'll also include any kind of like sub website sections or any nested content. And then, yes, we'll provide you with this spreadsheet. And then your goal is to fill out this column B, this action item. And again, it even shows you your options for your action. And then if there's any caveats, you can give them here. And what we want to see and what's helpful for us is that we see what the existing page is behind the scenes in the CMS on the back end, and then what it will need to be once it's moved, once it's renamed, or if it's archived, then there is no final folder path. It's just gone off of the website. Okay, the last one I'll cover before handing it over to Wayne. So I already did this, our action items. So this again is a newer process. So even you can see here, we didn't have as many action items as you can see on our updated template because I realized, oh, there's things that I missed and there's things that we need to indicate on the spreadsheet that's going to be helpful for your team and for our team. So we'll preset these action items, and then what we'll do as a team as well, after you all have completed this content inventory, it's actually, it didn't transfer over to here, but we will actually add an entirely new column called Team Actions, that's us, to essentially mirror what these actions are and then add any caveats for us, because there are certain orders of actions that we need to do on our end to make it easier to make this shift possible. It gets a bit hairy the day of the reorg because, as you can imagine, we're looking at, sometimes a few hundred pages. We're having to determine, okay, wait, has this already been renamed? Have we already moved it? Has it already been archived? So we have a step-by-step process on our end where we need to do the reorganization in a certain process. So this really is kind of the one source of truth for us. And this is what everyone will be using. And what I'll do with this spreadsheet as well, I'll be uploading it to Microsoft Excel in the web to make this a working document. So everyone could see it and work on it at the same time. We'll only give access though to essentially the content managers of the website to make sure that we're not having, too many cooks in the kitchen. We don't want duplicative work. We don't want anything to get confusing. So essentially this is our one source of truth to move forward. And then I'll hand it over to Wayne, who's going to then talk about building new content.
Thanks, Grace. Good morning, everybody. During this process, you might discover that you want a new website section or you need new pages. So in that step, that's just what you'll be doing if you're comfortable with that. We can also assist with things like gallery pages, which are kind of custom, we can build out other pages if you want, and you can have them there in staging for you to build. They can sit there alongside your current site, and then we won't publish anything until the reorg day, the actual implementation part. So that's part of this step as we're going. The sitemap is another tool for sort of visualizing what your navigation is going to look like. You may have seen these as like sometimes a diagram that looks like a hierarchical chart. For us, it's easiest if we do it in kind of an outline format. So we'll provide you with a Word doc that you can then fill out, and it'll show your top level navigation, which is in like your first level. and then the navigation below that. And if there's any subs, it can go even below that at the second level and third level. And this gives us a good picture of what the site's supposed to look like when we actually move things around and get it in its final version. And on there, you can see that there's notes for similar to the spreadsheet where you would indicate like there's no change, keep this page the same. This page is renaming, this section's renaming. And then at the end in parentheses is a path to where it is. You can see there's some highlights there. We'll use like pink to show that this is an external link. It's maybe in your side navigation, but it links somewhere off your site. So we'll give you this Word doc, you'll fill it out, and it's kind of a living document. As you're going through the process, you'll be probably tinkering with that, going back to the spreadsheet, looking at your site. So these kind of happen in tandem. It's not necessarily step 5, but you can use it throughout the process. Then the next thing we'll do after we review everything with you, we'll have meetings about all of this. And we'll get to a point where we're like, okay, everything looks good. Do you feel good about, what you're seeing, and do we understand what you want and the final form of your site? And then we'll actually schedule the date that we'll do the reorg, because it will take place on a day that's usually light on traffic, because your site will kind of get a little funky in the meantime as we're moving things around. Links may break and that during the process, but then at the end we'll have your lovely, pretty site ready to go. So we'll determine a day that's maybe least amount of traffic on your site or in the afternoon, and we'll go for it on that day. And on that day, we ask that whoever from your team is like knows the project the best. Usually it's like a project lead from your area. We'll ask that that person be available during that time, not to be on the call, but just to be available in case we have questions, because they inevitably arise. Because this is kind of a complex, project of moving parts, is a bunch of moving parts. And so we may have questions as we do it, something that may be not clear to us, even though we've reviewed it 100 times.
Something always comes up, so
Something
we
does,
appreciate
yeah.
your support.
Implementation day, I kind of mentioned this, but we'll basically start the process. We're going to go like step by step, go through the entire spreadsheet, move things around. We'll be breaking things a little bit, but then we'll be fixing them, and we'll try to make sure everything's dialed in. We'll do a bunch of testing, and then when we're ready, we will kind of hand it back to you and say, okay, it's where we think it should be. Please go and review it. Click on everything and make sure you're seeing what you expect to see. And then we'll also put redirects in at that time to hopefully catch anything that would break or things that you need to make sure are redirected to a new location.
Awesome. Thank you, Wayne.
Sure.
And yes, so we essentially, and I wanted to caveat, things like this content inventory and the sitemap will be working in tandem. And so these, if you can imagine, Wayne and I will both have these up on our screen and kind of, again, almost go like line by line. We do as much prep as we can as well, so that day of, if there is any content that isn't linked anywhere already, we could archive that before we even start. But we really want to make this process as smooth as possible. We will typically be doing this in the afternoon, just to make sure that you don't have, a lot of visitors to your traffic. And if anything goes awry, hopefully not a lot of people will see it. But that has been rarely the case. But yes, so as you can see, just as a reminder, it's a big lift. It's a lot of work on us and you all, but it really is, once it's done, and then hopefully you won't have to do another reorg for a while, because your content is up to date. It's where you want it to be and where users can find the most helpful information. So just wanted to point out that it's a process, but it's worth it, I would say. And then I'm going to just show 2 quick examples and then hand it over to Jessica Gray.
Grace, can I add one thing?
Yeah, of course.
So we don't talk about this too much, but if you have a large site and you're concerned about your users seeing the implementation, because it can take a couple of hours, you may want to send out a communication once we've set the date to give them a heads up that the site will be going under a reorg, and things may get a little strange during that time. So that's totally up to you.
Yes, great point. Yeah, even if you have a smaller site, things on the back end could just, sometimes it takes a while for those gears to start turning. So yes, I would, and when we block out this time in your calendar, it will, you should expect it to take a few hours. It's just the nature of it, and the product that we're using. So we do our best to make it quick, but again, and not the entire site won't all go down at once. It might just be like random links or images maybe won't appear. So I don't want you to all think like your website is completely down for this entire time we're doing it. It's not. It's just it kind of will look a bit funky, as Wayne said. Okay, so again, take this with a grain of salt because Ed Abroad is going under a name change right now. They are now Global Learning, but I wanted just to show you just two examples quickly of how main navigation changed and how an actual homepage content changed based on a reorganization. So this was their original, or let me say, as of last year, Ed Abroad had this main navigation on their website. We did and I was showing you all their content inventory before. So if we pull it up here, everything that you see in their top navigation aligned with this these website sections, as you can see. So I just wanted to show you kind of the difference between their original and their restructured order. They kept their sub navigations intact. So see these arrows, it allows you to have a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 15 links under your main navigation. So just as a reminder, main navigation links can be a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 6. So here they restructured it. They heard both anecdotal data from students, again, providing those kind of high level analytics to make some decisions about where to restructure things, what to keep, what to move. And so I just wanted to show you how even after your reorg, some things will stay in place. For example, like about us, logging in. Those are things that they felt were important to keep. They were highly trafficked and visited a lot. So just wanted to show you kind of the difference between the original and the reorganized structure. And again, it's based on what we saw in the content inventory and their sitemap here. And again, once we do a reorg, you could also then, in however the cadence you want to set for your team, 3, 6 months, you could look back at analytics and say, is this content working? Does it need to move again? So again, just because we do a reorg and just because I'm telling you it's a big lift doesn't mean that maybe in the future we can do kind of a smaller like phase 2 kind of reorg or kind of a restructure. So this first initial reorg that we're doing with a lot of sites of like the entire website has been really great to just, again, get rid of extraneous or outdated content and to restructure in a way that's helpful for users, but it doesn't mean that phase 2 or phase 3 can't happen as well. So again, kind of seeing what's working is also important and just tracking it as well. And then, so this is how Ed Abroad reorganized their main navigation. And I just wanted to show you, and Jessica will get into it a bit, kind of a reorganization of a homepage and their content. So I'm going to pull up the Office of National Scholars here. So very cool. I use the Wayback Machine, which is very cool. I've never used it before. So I took a screenshot of their website from about a year ago. And this was their entire homepage. Here, I'll just zoom in a bit. And they were using, and because, you know, it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But they were finding that their homepage wasn't really working the way that they wanted to, and they wanted to update the content so that it was more student focused and it provided more student stories for them. So Lauren Roberts is the content manager for the Office of National Scholars. But as you can see in their default homepage, they had a rotator, they had a small news section, a featured story, which is also news, and then they used this is just a 1-column text to just kind of highlight their awards in the Office of National Scholars. But pretty simple site, and there's nothing wrong with the default homepage, absolutely. If that is the content that you have that fills this space in this template, but they actually have quite a bit of robust content. So they actually decided to switch over to an enhanced homepage, and so I'll pull it up now. Of course, it's not, it's somewhere that my computer can't find. So this is their website now. So when I asked Lauren kind of, what was the push to move into an enhanced homepage, she was saying that they wanted to put more readily available information on their homepage so that the students, who is their main audience, is something that we really focus on in these reorgs. They didn't want them to have to dig for content. They like the flexibility of our widgets. And again, on our enhanced homepage, these different sections. So right here, like a widget region, this is a highlighted content section. This is another widget region here. These are really flexible and you can kind of move them up and down the page. This also allows for like highlighting, hence the name, highlighted content section, highlighting different, let's say, for example, types of deadlines for them or different types of news stories. You're able to move that toward the top of the page and really move these around. And it's maybe a bit more flexible than a default homepage here. But as you can see, they have the content to justify this enhanced homepage. They update their news stories a lot. They again used this in a unique way to kind of highlight like ONS and the numbers and the awards that they've won. And then they're able to also highlight different students and different awards who has accompanying videos associated like with their story and with the awards that they won. So they wanted more student stories right at the top, just on their homepage in general. They wanted to get away from using the rotator and really just have more of an evergreen image with kind of their mission statement here that links off. And then they just wanted it to be, again, because they had that content to support it, more visually appealing and a bit more kind of image and video driven homepage. So that kind of lend itself to moving from a default homepage to an enhanced homepage. And again, that might not work for your unit. It might not make sense, but they're an office that's really able to have someone dedicated to update their site on a timely and regular basis, make sure that content is updated frequently and it doesn't get stale. So again, totally based on the needs and the resources that you have in your office, but just wanted to kind of point out the difference between kind of a pretty modest default homepage and really making it a bit more robust and making it work for their content. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Gray to talk about more high-level best practices going into a reorganization, how you want to kind of focus on your homepage to make it the best it could be for your visitors. So I will hand it to her and then go back to our presentation.
Greetings and good morning.
Good morning.
Happy early Halloween. I'm Jessica Gray and I will be giving the best practices. I will take these off so you can take me more seriously. All right, so next slide, please, Grace. Alrighty, so before we dive into best practice tips, I wanted to give a UX UI perspective on reorganizing your content. So when we design or edit a page, it's easy to think users will scroll, read, and explore, but in reality, most people will scan when they visit your pages. So they will make quick decisions based on what they see first. So how we organize content, especially what appears at the top, makes a huge difference in whether someone stays or bounces. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so tip number 1, first impression zone. So think of the top of your page as your most valuable space. It's like the front window of a store. Like in this example in the picture, Dill and Camille, you can see right at the top, they have natural home goods and plant-based stuff, and that draws you in. And if you're interested, you would go and check it out. If not, you would bounce. So taking that into consideration, you want to show your best and most relevant content at the top of your web page. Things that users need or can act on. So that could be a apply button, a quick contact link, or your main message. If a user has to scroll before they understand what the page offers, you've probably already lost them. Next slide, please. Okay, so tip number 2, organizing sections logically. So one of the biggest things that we see when reviewing pages is content that's in the wrong place. Not because editors don't know any better, but because it's easy to think in terms of where it fits internally instead of where users expect to find it. So for example, if something belongs in student life, it shouldn't also live in the about page or academics pages. And also those widgets that you have readily available in the CMS, they exist to make the site more predictable for your users. Consistency is key. Next slide, please. Okay. So tip number 3, user-focused reorganization. So when you're reorganizing, always try to think like your user, not your department or office or college or whatever. So instead of saying, this belongs in our office, think instead, what problem does it solve for someone visiting the site? So for example, a student isn't looking for Office of Academic Affairs. They're more specifically looking for, how do I register for classes, or where can I get help? So structure your pages around those real questions. Next slide. Thank you. And the final tip, hierarchy and driving traffic. So once your pages are organized, think about hierarchy, both visually and structurally. So your most visited pages should be easy to reach from your homepage or main navigation. Use spacing, headings, and buttons to lead users' eyes. If you want to drive traffic somewhere, like an apply page or an event calendar, make sure that the path is clear and repeat it in key spots. Every page should guide users naturally to the action that you want them to take. And next slide. So key takeaway. Ultimately, good organization is just good user experience. It's less about rearranging content and more about helping people find what they need quickly. And next slide. And I have some post-workshop homework for you all I'm just encouraging, it's not mandatory. So after this workshop, I strongly encourage you to look at some of your own pages and ask, is the most important info visible without scrolling? Does the content live in the right section or widget? And lastly, am I guiding users towards what they came here to do? So with that, even small adjustments can make a big difference in how users experience your site.